Have you ever worked a job so completely isolating that you felt like you were actually losing your grip on reality?
Oh, that is such a real feeling.
Right. I want you to really picture it for a second. You're sitting in a sterile, temperature-controlled room, and you're just bathed in that harsh, humming, white fluorescent light.
Yeah, that kind of gives you a headache after 10 minutes.
Exactly. And outside the window, it's pitch black, maybe it's raining. You're interacting with hundreds of voices through a headset, but you're not actually connecting with a single human being.
No, not at all.
It's just you, the glow of a monitor, and this slow creeping sense that the rest of the world has completely disappeared and just left you behind.
Which is terrifying.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into a truly unsettling story today called The Archive of Echoed Screams. And our mission here isn't just to, tell you a spooky ghost story.
Right, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, we are going to explore a core thesis, which is how the profound isolation of modern corporate life strips away our anchor to reality and makes us vulnerable to systems that literally consume us.
I mean, it is a remarkable narrative, specifically because it uses those supernatural elements to dissect very real, everyday psychological phenomena.
Yeah.
If we look closely at the architecture of this story, it is an exploration of inevitability, of the erasure of the individual, and just the horrors of repetitive, mind-numbing labor.
Oh, absolutely.
It takes that universal feeling of being trapped in a dead-end job, of feeling like your life is just this predetermined loop of tasks,
Yeah.
and it literalizes it in the most chilling way imaginable.
Okay, let's unpack this because to do it properly, we have to talk about the environment. The setting does so much of the heavy lifting here.
It really does. It's the foundation.
So we're looking at NexaConnect Solutions. It's a call center located in Gurgaon, and it operates 24 hours a day from the 7th floor of this aging, tired office building.
Right.
And the narrative points out something deeply accurate about this specific kind of work. Anyone who works long enough in the graveyard shift of customer support eventually becomes someone else.
Yeah, they change.
They become quieter, colder, just emotionally numb. The hours just blur into this endless gray stream.
Well, and that emotional numbness isn't just a byproduct of boredom. I mean, it is a documented psychological defense mechanism.
Really, like a clinical thing.
Oh, yeah. In clinical psychology, there is a phenomenon called depersonalization. It's often triggered by severe burnout, sleep deprivation, and repetitive stress.
Which is exactly what the graveyard shift is.
Exactly. The brain essentially protects itself from the crushing monotony by detaching. You start to feel disconnected from your own body, your own emotions, and your surroundings.
Wow.
You become a passive observer of your own life rather than an active participant.
Hmm.
And the protagonist of our story, Aditya Sharma, is experiencing exactly this.
Yeah, he's totally checked out.
He is. He's working the graveyard shift, telling himself it's only temporary, which, is the lie so many people use to survive soul-crushing corporate routines.
It's like being deep underwater. That's the only way I can describe working a shift like that in a place that quiet. You're down there in the dark, and the pressure, the isolation is physically heavy.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it actually distorts your sense of reality, the way water distorts light. The hum of the servers is like the drone of a submarine engine. You're so far removed from the daylight world, from normal human rhythms, that you become incredibly vulnerable.
You do.
Your mind starts playing tricks on you. Or at least, you assume it's your mind.
And that assumption is the cornerstone of why the horror in this narrative works so well.
Mm-hmm.
Because the author establishes a baseline of weirdness very early on.
Yes, the office is already creepy.
Right. In this specific office, strange things are already the accepted norm, especially after 2 in the morning. Computers restart on their own. Headsets pick up faint whispers from completely disconnected lines. Desk phones ring with no active caller ID. But what is crucial here is how the corporate environment conditions the employees to react to these anomalies.
Right, because they just ignore them. Everyone has a convenient, mundane excuse, like management blames the outdated tech systems because acknowledging a real problem costs money.
Of course.
And the other employees blame the creepy old building, and Aditya, he just blames his own exhaustion. He rationalizes the impossible away because dealing with it requires energy he just doesn't have.
Exactly. When you are suffering from depersonalization in a corporate structure that demands constant output, you are essentially trained to ignore your own instincts.
You just put your head down.
Right. You ignore the red flags. So when the impossible finally happens, it slips right past Aditya's defenses, disguised as just another technical glitch in a broken system.
So let's talk about the moment those red flags escalate. It's around 3:15 a.m. on a rainy night. And Aditya's doing this digital janitorial work.
Mindless work.
Completely. He's been assigned to clean up archived customer data from the company servers. Basically, 2 decades of old support recordings. He's supposed to delete corrupted files, label old cases, and free up server space. It is mindless, repetitive clicking. And then he finds an anomaly.
Right. Buried deep inside an unlabeled archive folder, there's a specific file. The metadata is incredibly sparse. It just reads, no case ID recorded, November 17th, 2009. Duration, 18.32.
Okay.
And right beneath that file is a very simple, very clear digital warning. Do not access.
See, I find myself getting genuinely frustrated with Aditya here, that the file explicitly says do not access, and yet we know instantly that clicking it is exactly what he's going to do.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, why do we do this? Is it just pure stupidity, or is it this desperate need to break the absolute monotony of the graveyard shift? Because part of me thinks if I'm sitting there at 3 in the morning deleting duplicate files, a folder labeled do not access is basically a neon sign saying, finally, something interesting.
It's heavily tied to that need for stimulation, yes. But it also taps into a deeper behavioral mechanism known as the Pandora effect.
The Pandora effect.
Yeah. Human beings are fundamentally averse to uncertainty. Our brains are wired to need resolution. Studies have actually shown that people will often choose to expose themselves to a negative, even physically painful outcome, like a mild electric shock, just to resolve the curiosity of what will happen.
Wait, really? People will shock themselves just to know?
They will.
Yeah.
We would rather know something bad than remain in a state of unknowing. Couple that innate evolutionary drive with the sensory deprivation of Aditya's environment, and that warning label isn't a deterrent at all.
It's a lure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a psychological lure. He needs to open it just to feel something.
And he certainly does. He hits play. And at first, the recording sounds completely normal. There's this soft static, the standard customer service greeting, and a tired rep named Rahul answering the phone. But then, the caller speaks. It's a woman breathing heavily, and she whispers, "Please don't disconnect me." And the audio progression from here builds this incredible sense of dread.
The author relies entirely on auditory horror here, which is a brilliant choice. Auditory horror is uniquely invasive because it forces the listener's brain to do the heavy lifting.
Oh, because you can't see the monster.
Exactly. Evolutionarily, human beings are terrified of the dark because of unseen predators. When we hear a threat but can't see it, our amygdala goes into overdrive, constructing a monster far worse than anything visual could ever convey.
That makes a lot of sense.
The rep, Rahul, sounds confused but professional. The woman, crying softly, says there's someone outside her house. Rahul asks if she's called the police. She says yes, but the police told her nobody is there. Then she delivers this incredibly unsettling line, "But I can still see him."
And this is where the specific lore of the city bleeds into the narrative. Rahul asks for her address. She hesitates and then says, "Flat 42, Ashok Vihar." Aditya hears this through his headset and he freezes. He knows that address. Ashok Vihar is an apartment complex that burned to the ground years ago in this massive fire.
A terrible tragedy in the story.
Right. Dozens of people died, including a woman who was trapped alone inside Flat 42. So right away, Aditya tries to rationalize it again. He tells himself, okay, this is a sick prank. Some bored employee uploaded a fake recording years ago.
But the sensory details of the recording refuse to let his logical brain dismiss it. The woman says the man outside is smiling at her. Then her voice gets weaker, and she says he looks burned.
And the sounds that follow are so specific. Aditya actually pauses the recording because his chest feels tight. But that compulsion, that Pandora effect we just talked about, forces him to press play again.
He can't help himself.
The woman whispers that the man is now inside the house. And then Aditya hears footsteps on the audio. Slow, wet, dragging across the floor.
The sound design of the prose is escalating perfectly.
Yeah.
There's a loud bang. The woman screams, and the text makes a point to emphasize that this is not a theatrical movie scream. It is the raw, guttural sound of pure terror. Then, dead silence on her end. The rep, Rahul, is shaking, whispering into the deadline, and that's when a new voice enters the recording.
A low, distorted man's voice, speaking very close to the phone receiver. He just says, "Found you!"
So creepy.
Rahul starts panicking, demanding to know who is on the line. And the response isn't words, it's 3 soft knocks. TAP. TAP a day. The woman screams again from somewhere far away from the phone. The line fills with violent static, and then, well, not dot, 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 but then the customer service rep screams.
And this is the hinge point of the entire narrative. The moment the genre fundamentally shifts.
Because here's where it gets really interesting. When that rep on the 2009 recording screams, Aditya realizes with absolute certainty that it is his own voice.
Yes.
Every single inflection, the exact pitch of the terror, it is identical. It is him screaming. And reading this, my brain just stopped. I had to reread the paragraph.
It's a huge twist.
The file is explicitly dated November 17, 2009. But the story clearly established earlier that Aditya didn't get hired at NexaConnect until 2014. That is a 5-year gap. It is physically impossible for his voice to be on a recording made half a decade before he even set foot in the building.
What's fascinating here is how it restructures the fear. We move from a standard ghost story into the realm of a temporal paradox.
A time loop.
Specifically, this touches on the concept of an ontological paradox, sometimes called a bootstrap paradox. It's a theoretical scenario where an item, or in this case a piece of information, is sent back in time, creating an infinite loop where the information has no discernible point of origin.
Like, where did it start?
Exactly. The audio file of Aditya's death exists before his death actually happens, which means the archive is not a record of the past, it is a script for the future.
But wait, stop. This is where I struggle with the horror protagonist logic. If he suddenly realizes this recording is a script of his own future death, why doesn't he just leave? If I'm sitting at my desk and I hear my own dying scream on a hard drive from 5 years ago, I am not staying in that chair. I am unplugging the computer, sprinting down 7 flights of stairs, and moving to a different time zone. Why does he just sit there?
Because of the psychological weight of inevitability. Think back to the depersonalization we discussed earlier. He has already been stripped of his agency by his environment.
Oh, right, the burnout.
Yes. When he realizes that his future is already cataloged and sitting in a digital folder, it completely breaks his mind. If the universe has already recorded your failure, your agency is an illusion. How do you run from a timeline that has already documented your demise?
You can't.
Running feels pointless. The psychological toll of absolute powerlessness paralyzes him. He's a deer caught in the headlights of his own destiny.
He rips the headset off. His hands are shaking uncontrollably, but he looks around and everything is totally normal. Keyboards are clicking, other reps are murmuring, the rain is hitting the window. No one else has any idea that the fabric of his reality has just completely unraveled.
The isolation is absolute. And this seamlessly leads into the climax, where the digital horror bleeds into the physical world.
It happens in real time. Aditya is staring at the date on the file, 2009, when his actual desk phone rings. It's an unknown number. He picks it up on pure reflex. NexaConnect customer support, this is Aditya speaking.
A fatal mistake.
And what does he hear? Silence, followed by soft, familiar breathing. The exact same woman's voice whispers, "Please don't disconnect me." The live call is the recording. He is now actively living the audio file he just listened to.
It is a terrifying convergence of timelines. There's a concept called the Novikov self-consistency principle in physics. It suggests that if an event exists that would cause a paradox or any change to the past whatsoever, the probability of that event is zero.
Okay, meaning what?
Meaning the timeline will correct itself to ensure the loop happens exactly as recorded. Every response Aditya gives, every question he stammers out, aligns perfectly with the script you just heard. He asks who she is, and she replies, "You already know."
And then the barrier just collapses. Throughout the story, the horror has been confined to the digital realm. It's in the files, in the headset, on the line. But then Aditya hears the knocks. AP, TP, Tiki.
But not on the phone.
No. Only this time, they aren't coming through the earpiece. The narrative makes it horrifyingly clear. The knocks are coming from inside the office walls.
It is the ultimate violation of boundaries. The nightmare has manifested in physical space.
It's like sitting in a movie theater, right?
Okay.
You're watching the scary movie and you're terrified, but you feel safe because the monster's up there on the screen. But then suddenly you realize the monster on the screen isn't looking at the other characters, it's looking directly at you in the audience.
That is a perfect analogy.
The boundary between the screen and your reality is just gone.
Yes. That analogy perfectly captures the loss of agency. You aren't just watching the horror, you're part of it. And then we get the visual payoff for all that auditory dread.
Yeah.
The office lights flicker, the monitors shut off, and Aditya slowly turns toward the dark glass windows beside the call floor. We have to remember, he is on the 7th floor.
Right, way up in the air.
And standing outside that window in the driving rain is a tall figure.
A figure suspended 7 floors in the air. Its skin is blackened and burned, and it has this impossibly wide smile stretched across its face. It's just watching him. The woman on the phone says, "He's inside now." The figure tilts its head, and the office lights completely black out.
Chaos erupts on the floor. Other employees scream, but the darkness swallows the building. When the emergency backup lights flicker on a few seconds later, the environment has changed entirely.
It's empty.
The floor is completely empty. The other employees are gone. Headsets are dangling. Screens are filled with static. Aditya is completely alone, frozen in the center of the office, with his phone call still connected.
The woman on the line whispers, "Don't let him hear you." And Aditya hears those footsteps in the room with him. The slow, wet, dragging footsteps from the recording moving between the office cubicles. He asks the woman, "Who are you?" And she finally answers, "I'm you."
That identity reveal cements the temporal trap. The burning apartment in Ashok Vihar wasn't just a ghost story. It was a metaphorical mirror for Aditya's own existence, trapped, isolated, and being consumed.
The footsteps stop right behind him. Aditya turns, and the burned man is standing at the end of the cubicle aisle. And beneath the melted, charred flesh, Aditya recognizes his own face.
It is a future ruined version of himself, a literal manifestation of corporate burnout.
The phone line crackles, the woman screams exactly like she did on the recording, and Aditya understands the absolute truth. The file wasn't an old prank. The call hadn't happened yet. The burned version of himself steps closer, opens its mouth impossibly wide, and Aditya finally screams in absolute terror.
And here is the deeply unsettling genius of the loop.
His scream of terror is the sound that creates the audio file he was just listening to. By realizing he is in the trap, he provides the final piece of data.
It is a flawless causal loop. The effect is its own cause. He creates the ghost that haunted him, the office lights explode, darkness swallows the room entirely, and the cycle is complete. Which brings us to the chilling aftermath the next morning.
The day shift arrives. You can imagine the mundane reality of it. People walking in with their coffees complaining about the rain. They walk onto the 7th floor and it is completely empty.
No one is there.
Every single computer has crashed overnight. The archive servers, the ones Aditya was supposed to be cleaning, are corrupted beyond repair. All that data, gone.
Except for one file. The 2009 file remains completely untouched on the central drive. But its metadata has changed. The duration of the file is no longer 18 minutes and 32 seconds. It is now exactly 24 minutes long.
That added length contains the final, lingering detail of this narrative. Near the very end of the recording, after Aditya's screaming has finally stopped and faded into static, the audio clears just enough for a brand new voice to come through.
It's so chilling.
A terrified, shaking male voice whispering a warning into the dark. If you find this recording, don't answer the call.
It is a brilliant note to end on, because it forces us to reevaluate everything we just learned about how this temporal archive functions, and it ties so perfectly into our modern reality.
It really does. It makes you think about your own daily routines, doesn't it? The mindless tasks you repeat every day and the digital trails you leave behind in the corporate machine.
Yeah.
We log in, we click, we scroll, and we assume we are the ones processing the data. But the algorithms mapping our behavior have gotten so good at predicting what we'll do next, sometimes you have to wonder if the data is actually processing us, if the timeline is already written in the code.
Precisely. We are constantly leaving pieces of ourselves in systems we don't fully understand or control. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over regarding that new voice at the end of the 24-minute recording.
Okay.
We know that the archive forces the listener to fulfill their own doomed timeline. The very act of engaging with the data ensures the terrible event happens. So think about that final whispered warning. Don't answer the call.
Yeah, who's that?
Is that message a genuine act of salvation from a future victim desperately trying to break the temporal cycle and save the next graveyard shift worker? Or is that warning actually the newest lure designed by the archive itself?
Oh, wow.
Because as we discussed earlier with the Pandora effect, nothing guarantees a person will investigate a mystery quite like telling them they absolutely shouldn't.
So the next time you're working late under those humming fluorescent lights, feeling a little too isolated, a little too disconnected from reality, and you see a file you know you shouldn't click on, maybe just step away from the desk. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.